All right, let's do it. It's Hit the Books time, part of the Hammer Betting Network, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish. I'm merely Brad Powers. Before we talk already week 9 of the college football season, we always recap what we just saw in week 8 of college football. And Knish, unfortunately for us, our pocketbooks, our viewers, was not our best effort last week. 1-4 on best bets. Not a good look. I have been told, I will say, and usually I start off the show talking a team from another league, but I was told specifically by Mr. Bobby Pizza and Alex over at the Hammer Betting Network, I'm not allowed to talk Detroit Lions football for I think your sake and everyone else's sake.
I sent them a cease and desist that said no lie part. Put it in the contract. I will not be talking Lions for 2022. If you ask me about it, I have to file a legal motion and a PPO against anybody asking me about Lions. So yes, no comment on that organization. We'll move forward.
Let's move forward. Unfortunately, let me just recap because we don't. We mentioned the winners, we mentioned the losers, and my goodness, 1-4 for our best bets last week. I'll start with a positive. Boise State, outright winner there. Didn't have to sweat that one. They were, pretty much led that one from start to finish over Air Force. The problem we had with our best bets last week was quarterback injuries. Let's start with Kansas State, a team that was up 18 as an underdog, blew that one. And not only down to a backup, down to a third-string quarterback for a couple of series in the second half. I mean, I never thought I'd miss Adrian Martinez, but they certainly missed him. They actually missed probably even the backup that they probably would have covered if he didn't miss a couple series. Yeah. And Will Howard, that was an unfortunate loser. Anything you take from that one, Knish?
No, I mean, it's a brutal one. TCU, and I saw somebody in the chat, TCU futures, got to myself. They're on the run. People, we were talking early season about the USC run that they were on. TCU's on this Powerball-esque run of facing teams with injury. I'm not even sure TCU's team's that's good. I think they're going to play for the Big 12 title. I don't really know if they're really any good. I don't think the defense is good. Yep. But hey, they're getting the results. Somehow managed to cover. I would have liked a TCU win and a KSU cover. So yeah, no, that was a brutal one. And yeah, a couple others that we struck out on the QB roulette last week.
Yeah, Northern Illinois, not much to dig in there. I mean, Rocky Lombardi.
What?
Half hour before the game is out. I mean, what the hell is that?
Before they started the other guy, and then is it somebody? There's that company that U.S. Integrity. Somebody look into this. Like the week before, they announced the other guy as starter. He plays one snap, and then they put in Lombardi. And then this week they announced Lombardi, and then they pull him out. What is going on?
Agree, specifically in the MAC. Like all of a sudden, there's other ones like Gabbert from Miami, Ohio. All of a sudden, surprise starter, he's back.
He was out for the season, and then half hour before the game, there he's playing, and then Western Michigan. I lost money on that. I was like, oh, Miami, Ohio, banger. Gabbert's back. Western Michigan's playing a true fresh. They lose outright. Getting MAC info is like getting info from like war-torn Syria, where there's like no internet, they have people like somebody like on a walkie-talkie, like Gabbert's back. You're like, what? Like I didn't even know he was still on that. I thought he went to sell insurance because he was out for the year.
Yeah, I mean Morse code or something. I don't know with the Mac. I mean, I've been betting it and been okay. We will get into it. There's another, I think, under the radar Mac injury that no one's talking about right now on one of the better Mac quarterbacks. We'll see. He got hurt on the final play. He might not play this week. Hint, hint. We'll get to that later.
I'm sure we'll find out 45 seconds before kickoff.
Yeah, pretty much. And
from some intern for like the Toledo Blade that's not even getting paid. That's like, oh, Daquan Finn. He's actually not in pads. Kickoff here in 30 seconds.
Yeah, pretty much. And let's be honest. I mean, the MAC is not a conference that has quality quarterback depth. A lot of these guys are worth 3, 4, maybe in Finn's, he might be worth 5 or 6 points of the point spread. So, I mean, these are critical pieces of news that we're just not getting throughout. No even hints of information throughout the course of the week. Couple others. I mean, Jeff Sims for Georgia Tech gets hurt, and there goes Georgia Tech's chances of covering that one out the window. You talk about TCU benefiting from backup quarterbacks. Virginia, they're going to play another backup quarterback maybe this week against Miami, although I kind of like Miami, to be honest with you. I think Virginia's a piece of crap. I mean, we've been talking about this for weeks. The other one, Clemson. Are you kidding me? I mean, their quarterback gets benched. And look, Syracuse deserved the cover there. They had some hellacious calls go against them in the game. But I knew it. That 90-yard fumble return touchdown ended up being the difference. I mean, that's a 10 to 14-point swing. I mean, Clemson covers if not for that early in the first part of that game. So not a good look for us. Any other thoughts on our best bets before we talk about some other teams that impressed and didn't impress us last week?
I mean, the Sims, when we talk Mac quarterbacks here, Zach Gibson comes in and first of all, you can see why Jeff Collins got fired, because he brings that guy in to be the backup quarterback. Like, you could find somebody in D2 that's better than that. Goes like 3 for 18. The last play of the game, he just runs out of bounds. Like, it's over. Like, I'm not even going to throw one down here. Like, pathetic. If Sims can't play, I don't know what Florida State's good to this week, but I know it's higher than whatever the market's at right now. So, because Gibson, all-time miserable performance. So, yeah, that was a brutal one. And, yeah, as you said, when you're laying 13.5 and you're about to score, as soon as I saw DJ fumble the ball and Q scoop it up, I hit the channel chance. I can take this one off one of the screens because that baby is cooked. You ain't covering 14 when you basically have a 14-point swing in one play. So, yeah, some bad run there, but, hey, we got to bounce back.
Yeah, we do. There's another week. We got 5 or 6 of them, more of them here. We got to finish strong. Speaking of finishing strong, or at least a team that's finished strong the last couple of weeks, team impressed me. I hate to admit it. I don't like the guy, but he wins football games. Brian Kelly, LSU. They finished Ole Miss in the second half to the tune of 28-0, outscoring the Rebels after being down. This is the third game now that LSU's trailed by at least 13 points at one point in the game, and they've won. I'll tell you how they do it. They do it by Jaden Daniels taking care of the football. He runs around. I mean, a Jaden Daniels scramble is one of the best plays in college football this year. He has 30 rushes of more than 10 yards. I think it's 12 more than any other Power 5 quarterback in the country. They're playing some good defense. I like that true freshman linebacker, number 40, that Perkins kid. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying LSU's a play-on team down the stretch. They got road games against Arkansas, Texas A&M. Who knows with those two teams? Can be Jekyll or Hyde. And then obviously the next game will be a big game we'll talk about next week against Alabama. But so far, the last couple of weeks, nice bounce back for LSU. They impressed me specifically in that second half. Any thoughts on that one?
I mean, safe to say that Brian Kelly is a better football coach than Ed Orgeron. I don't think there's that. He might not have the Southern draw and the deep voice and be as much of a ladies' man. But the man, hate him, love him. Most people hate him. I think we both agree on that. The man can coach football. He knows how to run a football program. Because we mentioned a few times on the show this year that I thought at a few points their season was going to go off the rails. He even got back like a couple of guys early that, Keyshawn Boutte, that the guys that are a little bit of like the club LSU program carryovers that you thought they were going to quit the team. He somehow got them to buy back in, and they're playing good football. So yeah, I mean, you gotta pay the man his respect. He knows how to put it together. So yeah, that was I thought I thought early when they go down, I'm like, all right, this is finally the LSU. Like they're going to get run out here. Takes a lot to come back in that game and get it together and make the adjustments. So more credit to them. Yeah, that was a rough one. I have a question in the chat there. Where are you at on Club? Because this is interesting. I know people are like making he's not Trevor Lawrence whatsoever. Like he is not a guy that I'm seeing these splash plays on the wow factor that when Lawrence took over for Kelly Bryant, it was like generational. Obviously, the guy goes one in the draft, a generational. Klubnik is not that level of player. So I get GJ was struggling, had a few turnovers. They made the switch, but it's not like Klubnik came in and then made a bunch of plays. Like I think they're better off sticking with DJ, to be honest with you. I don't see it with Klubnik.
Yeah, I think, Dabble probably tipped his hand in the post game saying that, he just, pulled a starter. It's almost like a starting pitcher. Just sometimes you ain't got it at quarterback. And, DJ didn't have it for that particular game. Yeah, I don't expect it. Look, they got a bye this week. Then they're in South Bend. I don't expect to see Klubnik making his first career start in South Bend. They'll stick with DJ. He'll probably have a short leash. Probably the rest of the season. He won't be able to, struggle consistently. And, I agree with you. It's not – Klubnik is far and head and shoulders above DJ. He didn't have it for whatever reason. Yeah, I agree with Ryan B there. Not ready. Will be next year though. It'll be interesting to see if DJ goes pro or maybe transfers. That'll be something to look out for. He's not going to be a high draft pick. I'll tell you that much.
No.
A couple other things in the chat. The TCU Kansas State big tickets to win the Big 12. I don't know. It's a week by week basis in the Big 12. I think it's super competitive. All 10 teams are capable of beating one another. I think just sit tight. What would you say right there? I'm not looking. Oklahoma State's banged up. I know they just beat Texas. Who the hell knows it? I think on a neutral field, Texas is the best team. But when you blow leads consistently, now 6 of them under Sark in a year and a half. I don't know if anything's safe with them. Obviously, Oklahoma State got some home cooking, and that kind of leads into a team that impressed me. Kudos to Oklahoma State. Margaret was totally against them in that Texas game, and they're banged up, missing a half dozen people on the defense. Defensive line's banged up. Secondary, they're dropping like flies during the game. They rally, beat Texas. Although I got to say, are you kidding me? Texas has 14 penalties. Oklahoma State has 0.
Yeah.
I've been watching college football for 30 years. I have never seen a disparity that big, at least with the one team having a goose egg and the other team having 14. Have you ever seen that, Knish?
No, and that peak Big 12 conspiracy, the message boards were fired up on that one. So, yeah, no, that's a great – I would just sit on it's going to be hard unless TCU completely goes in the tank for them just not to make it. Like then you'll have options if they make it. They've got the tiebreakers now, and all the other teams have kind of beat up. They've got the Kansas State tiebreaker. Texas is already down multiple losses. Like at this point, even though we just said that TCU by no means is elite or any of that, could see them dropping a few games with the position they're in. It's just going to be hard for them not to make it. So I just sit on that ticket, and then whoever they ended up playing in the big. Unless they lose 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5 or something, they'll probably
Sonny Dykes is capable of doing it.
Well, it's hard to put your faith in him, but they're in the catbird seat. So I just kind of ride that until the championship game and see where you're at there.
Agree there. Another team that impressed me from one of the big games from last week, Oregon. Specifically, you got a young coach I thought made a really good call. It looked like it was going to be a back and forth game. Who could make a stop? Who could stop who? And what does he do? He gains an extra possession. It's a back and forth game. They're up 17-10. He onside kicks it. They keep the ball. They score again. They go up 24-10. From that point forward, UCLA was chasing. They settled for field goals a couple of times. And, Oregon, since the Georgia game, to me, on a neutral field, is the best team in the Pac-12. They get Utah at home. I think they're better than USC at this point. So kudos for a first-year coach. Dan Lanning brings in the transfer Bo Nix, who is playing like, a top 10, maybe borderline top 5 quarterback right now. So I was impressed with Oregon. Did you catch that one at all?
Yeah, you know what? And actually, I was waiting for the UCLA 7. I got it. I bet it, and Oregon just shoved it down the throat. I get and
Yep.
nothing else. I thought UCLA's offense, played reasonably well. Obviously, you said had a couple of field goals, but on defense, Oregon just totally imposed their will. And you've seen it's funny, like you've seen. I know we'll get into it in the who didn't look the Mario Cristobal effect where that Dan Lanning walked into a ton of talent. They were in the trenches and just they're able to get in Bo Nix. They're the best roster in the Pac-12, I think, bar none. So you had the crystal ball where he'd accumulated, couldn't coach it, but he accumulated a bunch of talent there, and they got a coach in there that now knows what he's doing. And they look far and away the best. And that Georgia game's probably going to cost them and the Pac-12 a playoff berth there, because I think the conference is good enough to probably justify one. But if Oregon runs the table, I just don't see them. I don't see a pathway for any Pac-12 team to get in.
I agree with that. I mean, 49-3, it's just tough overcoming that. Had they lost 27-10 or something, maybe they could have overcome that. But I agree in that regard. Is there any other teams that caught your eye before we get to the negative? I think it's a good transition to crystal ball, but was there anybody else that caught your eye?
Sadly, very tragically, I got to give credit to the Troy Trojan men. That defense is real deal. That was a tough one for me to stomach in Mobile. And Troy went into like old school Jim Tressel ball of like running and punting and just letting it. And South Alabama, who's been a fantastic offense all year, could not drive the field on them. Had a couple calls go against them. But that's one of those games you knew it was going to be on the knife edge. And South Alabama made the mistakes. Troy didn't. And really, they just let their defense dominate and play. And I think it would surprise me if they did. I think they'll run the table and get to the Sun Belt title game. And that's the best. There's some other issues on each side of the division, but the bar none best unit in the Sun Belt is Troy's defense, and they earned it. It's probably going to get him a Sun Belt championship.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who comes out of the other side there. I think, obviously, Troy's in the catbird seat there. Keep in mind, their only loss in Sun Belt play was the Hail Mary at App State. So, if they get App State, that would be a nice revenge angle for them in that one. And you didn't have any Troy pre-flop as far as futures? You were just all South Alabama?
I didn't have any Troy pre-flop. I had a lot of enough South Alabama to build a new town in South Alabama, but no, unfortunately, no Troy. And I was hearing from some friends of the show that did have some Troy where they were letting me know about it. So, that was another salt in the wounds for a tough week all around. I'll give one more. The Green Wave, baby. Tulane. They now, granted, they kind of, took the foot off the gas there after being up a bit after being up big. But they have now. Granted, that's going to be a tough finish. They got Tulsa this week, but then they got UCF, SMU, Cincinnati. Depending on who beats who, they got a shot here. They got a shot to I see their prices are down to 2-1, 3-1 to win the AAC. It's a team that was 100-1, 65-1, early in the season. If they, depending on those tickets, go 165-1. Not as much as I had on South Alabama. One sprinkle on 65-1. So I'm hoping the Green Wave can get it done there. And they'll have a shot depending on, UCF, Cincinnati, who wins that, and if they can win one game. But yeah, they look great, and they got a real shot now. Because those teams at the top of the AAC that we thought were going to be elite are not elite.
Yeah, Houston, disappointing. UCF, terrible loss last week. Cincinnati, keeps tripping over themselves as far as penalties. They haven't lost a game yet, but wouldn't be a bit surprised. You cannot have the penalties that they do on a week in and week out basis and it not costing you a game. So I hear you. I love Willie Fritz. One of the most improved teams in the country. They're only non-cover on a game in and game out basis, I think, was a Southern Miss game. They've covered every other game since then, although they tried not to get back toward last week. That would have been a brutal bad beat up 35-0 at halftime, laying a touchdown and not covering. But kudos to the Wave there. Let's talk Hurricanes, Mario Cristobal.
Oh,
we're going to transition to negativity. We just talked about a team that has covered every game but one. Miami's only cover of the season was week 1 against Bethune-Cookman. Ever since then, the Hurricanes have failed to cover the spread in every single game. And last week, they turned the football over 8 times. To put that in perspective, that's more than any other Power 5 team in any game in 13 years. Any Power 5 team in any game in 13 years. 8 turnovers. Shamefully, I bet them last week. I laid
The number's been steaming every week for like a month.
Yeah, well,
every time.
I could kind of see it. Like the Virginia Tech game, they dominated. They gave up the back door. Van Dyke was throwing it well, even against North Carolina, and they lost that one. He gets hurt. I mean, they had to go to Garcia, who's an interception turnover machine. Look, he's going to recruit well. He'll upgrade the talent. You're going to have to give him a couple years for that. But my goodness, X's and O's wise, it's just ridiculous. They have enough talent right now to not be losing by 4 touchdowns to Duke, losing, convincingly to Middle Tennessee. It's a bad first year to say the least for Cristobal.
I wouldn't be so. And listen, I know he was the Broyles Award winner, but anybody in the know around Michigan was not. There was not a lot of tears shed when Josh Gaddis left for the. He was not happy. He wanted to raise. He wanted to be the guy if Harbaugh left to be the head coach. And basically, the program told him no. And as you can see, this is why, because the man they're a mirror image of it. Cristobal, Gaddis, they were made for each other. They both can recruit. They both can sell a bunch of people, selling Eskimo ice at the freaking car salesman, but they can't coach for shit. They literally, neither. And now you've got Cristobal, who said the same thing in Oregon, underimpressed, a lot of talent. Gaddis comes in, same thing. Can't go. They've got nobody there. There's no adult in the room to fix it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see someone's got. It's not going to be Cristobal. It's too early, and he's got too much. It's not going to be him that's getting there. Wouldn't surprise me to see maybe Gaddis take the early, be the fall on the sword there. But they got to bring somebody in. I mean, this is like they need someone like how Gary Patterson brought in Texas. They brought him in over. You need somebody in there to come in and help stabilize this. Because those two guys cannot fix it on their own. And it's not going to be – they don't have enough time. Like it cannot continue like this, especially with the people that are pumping that money into Miami program. They're not going to accept what's happening here.
No, they're not. Because they invested a lot. The whole university did to bring in Cristobal. It's kind of breaking what Miami's been about the last 20 years as far as really fully, for the first time in a while, investing in their football program. And so far, the ROI, big time negative. Speaking of negative ROI, I got another team that consistently is pumped out is probably as much money as any team in college football, and the results are despicable at this point. I'm talking Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher. Another team I bet, believe it or not, last week. I just thought I thought after a bye, I saw some things that I liked from the young players against Alabama on the road, and I thought South Carolina's a total fraud. Still think South Carolina is a total fraud. And boom, bang. Before I can blink, we got a 100-yard kick return touchdown on the opening kickoff. I blink again, turnover, 10-0. Blink again, another turnover from A&M. I'm down 17-0. And I'm here to tell you, I still thought there was a chance A&M could cover. Haynes King gets hurt in the second half. 5-star comes in. He can't do anything. It should not have come down to that for the first place. I don't know what needs to be said. We talked about Cristobal not having it offensively. Obviously, Jimbo's the play caller. He doesn't have it offensively. He needs to bring somebody in. The question is, will he suck it up his ego and do it? Because he's only in year 2 of a 90. Everyone talks about the 10-year, $75 million contract that he originally signed. He re-upped it after the 2020 season when he won that Orange Bowl. It was another 10 years for $90 million on top of that. So, I know the oil money runs deep there, but $30 million for a recruiting class, $90 million for a head coach. Somebody's going to be pretty upset. So massive changes coming in Aggie land. Did you catch that game at all? Did you have any?
Yeah, you know what? I took some Texas A&M second half. I agree with you. I thought if King doesn't go down, I think they end up completing the comeback. But yeah, I saw a tweet from Dan Volkin that said, was there any doubt if Jimbo didn't have anywhere close to that much guaranteed money that he'd be out at the end of the season? No, some of these schools let the agents, sweet talk them into these absurd guarantees. And now you got no options. Now you're not going to coach. Who's going to cut $100 million? I mean, there's people that pump money into the program. Not a lot of people that can cut $100 million check to buy out a guy, and then have to cut another check for a new coach. So, and I agree. Connor Weigman. Like, I know he's a true freshman, and there was some talk like he came in and looked horrid, like no shot whatsoever. And I did see earlier that I thought I was going to fade A&M this week if it was going to be Weigman. I did see a tweet earlier that King should be able to go, so we'll see. But he did not look ready to play at all. And there's some rumors. We've heard in Aggie land that they've already got a new OC picked out for next year that's going to take over and take the control. Because, I mean, they've got no option. You can't pay off Jimbo. So the only thing you can do is really bring in a new OC to kind of take over and take the reins away from him. Because I saw some
we'll see how much money they give that guy.
I was going to say they better tap the oil well, because but something like 8 procedure penalties, like Jimbo not having not having a silent count for the road, like these are like things that are so archaic that it's still happening in his system. That's just miserable. And yeah, it is bad ROI, all-time bad ROI in what they're spending right now.
They're also missing on the defensive side of the ball. DJ Durkin's a downgrade from Mike Elko. If you don't know who Mike Elko is, he's doing a bang-up job as a first-year head coach at Duke. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that locker room is. I know they can bring in a different play caller with all the money being paid to the players. With Jimbo, not great past history with the player as far as the locker room and what he did to the Florida State program. I don't see it working out. So I think it's going to – I mean, I don't care who he brings in as a coordinator, but we'll see. You mentioned Weigman. Oh, my goodness. I mean, he did not look good. Although with that being said, Haynes King said they could have put him back in. I wish they did for my pocketbook, but I must be glutton for punishment because I'm here to tell you, I bet Miami and A&M this week. I just did. Whatever.
I'm with you. I gotta tell you, maybe this is my Tony Elliott. I am with you on Miami. I like that. I think even if it's Garcia,
I agree.
I felt better with, again, the turnovers were bad. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Virginia's defense is going to have anywhere near that amount of success. So yeah, I thought I swore off Miami until I saw the number this week, and I said, no, I'm back. I'm back. So yeah, I agree with that one. The A&M's a little tough for me to
I took +3 though. That's all. I mean, I'm not interested now.
No, I hear you. So, yeah, and if it's King, I think that's the right side there anyway, because obviously, I mean, as we said, it's not like Ole Miss hasn't been significally exposed here of late. So,
they were exposed in that second half, though. My goodness, I think they're finally getting the meat of their schedule, and I just think there's holes on that roster, and we see it because they can't consistently for 60 minutes put it all together. Speaking of not putting it together, one other team that I got to mention that huge disappointment, another bet that I made that I happened to lose last week, BYU. Are you freaking kidding me? Playing a Liberty team that was down, I think, 13 players. And I mean to tell you, Liberty dominated them. At the line of scrimmage, ran for like 300 yards on BYU. I get it. BYU's giving up rush yards all year long. Their defense is basically broken. But, that was kind of a get-right game, should have been for BYU after playing Baylor, Arkansas, Notre Dame, all these big boys. You're stepping down in class, and my goodness, that was just a bad look. Kudos to Liberty, though. Hugh Freeze, this should probably be his last year. He'll probably be the Auburn coach by this time next year, you would think. He's going for a bigger job, but I don't like BYU's future going to the Big 12 where they got to face teams week in and week out. Kalani Sitake won a lot of games against the G5 teams in 2020 with a first-round draft pick at quarterback, and he beat some Pac-12 teams last year. But my goodness, this year's been an abysmal failure. Did you catch any of that one? Yeah,
as you said, I agree with the chat. Like, this is the worst trenches I can remember ever at BYU. If nothing else, they've always been a team that's been able to, get some, 30-year-old Mormons out there and, a defensive tackle and be able to have, grown men on their defense. And they're just getting absolutely bodied. We should be going to the Mountain West, not the Big 12, because I don't know. I don't know if Sataki's got what his future looks like after this, because it has been disappointing. Doesn't even go half of it for this defense. It is a ruthlessly horrid defensive unit and defensive front. And when you can't stop the run, you're getting run on like this. There's not much success you're going to have. And I'm not sure how that, I mean, it's not the easiest place to recruit. So yeah, I don't know what their future looks like. Not a place that you can bring in a lot of transfer portal in. So yeah, it's going to be tough for them to turn it around there, because yeah, they are. This is as bad as I can ever remember BYU on the defensive side of the ball.
GS in the chat mentioned another one I forgot. James Madison's quarterback, late scratch. No one knew that one until almost right before kick. We saw some Marshall money. And then Marshall played. They've been splitting reps a little bit between their quarterbacks. They played that Fancher kid the whole game. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Look, I mean, I know we're within 3-4 years, we're going to get to a point where these schools are going to take money from some of the gambling companies, because they just will. I know they will. There's just too much money there. But if that is indeed the case, there has to be some sort of an injury report in college football. Just has to be. Just period. I don't care if you list every freaking player on your roster questionable. I mean, there needs to be something. Now, look, I like being in the gray area and the weeds, because I think you can find some value there. But, I mean, there's just a lot of shenanigans going on where I have not seen, as far as quarterback news, like just total surprises. I mean, we dealt with the COVID stuff in 2020. I thought we were past all that BS, but it is what it is. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Any other teams that you got a big thumbs down arrow on after last week?
I'm going to pile on some guy I piled on. Mike Leach, air raid system against a real defense. What happens? Goose egg. Doesn't work. Not going to work. If you're Mississippi State, I know it's not like they had this rich culture of great football. Bring Dan Mullen back. I don't know what you're going to do here in Mississippi State, but Mike Leach, this area, you got sold a bill of goods from a guy that, he's funny quotes and, he's such a, like the media builds him up to be. That system will not work in the SEC versus anybody. You've seen it when he goes up against real defenses that know explosive plays, that can't run the ball, and it's easy to diagnose. It's the same. That's why Washington kicked his ass year after year after year. And in the SEC, you've got a half dozen Washingtons with better talent of guys that know how to run a defense, and all it takes is for them to, especially when they're seeing it year after year, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work with Leach. So I don't know if they'll get rid of him or not, but they're wasting a good defense with this pathetic version of the air raid and Mike Leach's quirky quotes. So that ain't gonna work, and they're it's just a huge failure for Mississippi State.
Yeah, I mean the conference.
Yeah, this is and people too. Oh, Mike Leach. Oh, he's the reality. What a guy. He's still running this stupid system with no adjustments in 2022 and getting his ass kicked by anybody with a half a defense.
It's only getting tougher in that division. I mean, Eddie O isn't there at LSU like he's been the last couple of years. And then I do think Hugh Freeze might be the next guy at Auburn. And I'm here to tell you, Hugh Freeze, if you go back through it the last 10 years, going back to Arkansas State, #1 coach in the country, ATS. It's like 65% in every game over the last 10 years. Speaking of games, let's get to some of the big games. I'm wearing the hat. I think that's probably the biggest game of the week.
That Oklahoma hat, I'm assuming. I know you wouldn't wear a Buckeyes hat on the show. It's got to be maybe a.
That's Buckeyes. It's Woody Hayes.
Oh, well, I didn't think you would. Okay. Well.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Well, we're going to disagree on the Michigan game anyway, so we'll have.
We are going to disagree.
Oh, I can't wait for that. That's going to be a spirited discussion. Buckeyes, big-time favorites at Penn State, 15.5 point road favorites. Here to tell you, I'm not that surprised that it's that number. That's about where I made it. Willie Hill last week, they've been having these look-aheads and Caesars. They had it 11. I knew that wasn't going to last, so that was one bet that I did make. I didn't bet anything on the open because they opened it right around 2 touchdowns. Not surprised that we're sitting here at 15.5. I took a little bit. The total was like 62.5. I just small bet under there. I just thought, Ohio State defensively is legit. I mean, this isn't Ohio State's offense from the, the past few years, and I think they can limit Penn State offensively. So Did you get involved on this one yet this week?
No, I have. I agree with your take there. I think in under 61 is playable, but that would be, I think, the side not so much. It's whatever, for whatever reason. James Franklin's had a ton of trouble versus Michigan and always played up to Ohio State. And they're getting the whiteout here in a little bit. But do I have faith in Penn State's offense to be able to consistently score with Ohio State? I mean, you've seen it even against an Iowa team that played. For a team that gave 50 points, they played well defensively. I mean, they had forced some turnovers. They did what they could do. But this Ohio State team's got so much chance. They're eventually going to break through. And I don't think Penn State is going to be able to keep up running with them. Sean Clifford's is not looking good. The offense itself just has been very steady, especially against better opponents. So for me, it would just be an under there if you can get 61 or better. I just think the side's a little bit. If when it was under, like you said, some of those look aheads were under 14. I guys played. Now that it's moved over, it'll be nothing for me. But
I got the 17. I'd consider Penn State.
That's probably where I would be. I don't. It's just one of those that I don't know if I can suck myself into it. But I agree. That'd be the only side I could play once it got there. But like the under a bit. But it'll be one that I think I'll just likely take in.
A little bit of a subdued atmosphere, possibly. Not a whiteout. First time the Ohio State game hasn't been a whiteout in probably a decade. That whiteout game they somehow used it against Minnesota last week. Unbelievable. TV, Fox Noon for that one. Let's go to another game. A lot of question marks in this game. Oklahoma State at Kansas State on the injury front. We've seen some money on Kansas State. Tells me that maybe Martinez plays, if not, at least be the backup. Oklahoma State's been taking money against them week after week after week. Doesn't matter that they cover. They just take money against them every single week. So we got Kansas State favored by 1, total sitting at 56.5, 57. I did not get involved here. Just there was too many question marks for me. Obviously, Oklahoma State off another big-time performance. I want to take Kansas State. If I was told Martinez is going to play, sure, I love Kansas State here after, kind of a misleading loss. Are you part of this Kansas State money so far, first 24 hours since open?
No, nothing on this one for me. I agree with you, though. I think the questions on obviously Oklahoma State dealing with a ton of injuries. My issue for Kansas State would be you've seen, I think what we saw last week and it's an Oklahoma State team that's going to score points. Like Spencer Sanders looked fine. They're going to be able to put up points. Even against a relatively solid Kansas State defense. Like it's one of those that they're going to need to get into the high 20s, the 30s to win this game. And I got to feel better about the quarterback situation if I'm going to put it, because that obviously, what we saw from the third string, they won't be able to contend. So I didn't want to lay it this early. I agree with you. I think that one of Martinez or Howard, probably likely more Martinez, will play. But it's not something that I was eagerly looking to get involved in. So it'd be a Kansas State or pass for me once you can get some more QB certainty. But I think this is one that if you want the K-State side, probably get involved. Now this is one that I think will go to 2.5 to 3 as the week goes on, probably before the news becomes public. It's that information is usually trading out there before the announcement. So I would say if you're looking to get involved with Kansas State, it'd be now or never. And that'd be the side I'd lean to anyway, assuming the quarterbacks are back.
Fair enough. Let's move to another game. And I'm not sure we're going to have too many on these big games. Just because the biggest games of the week doesn't necessarily mean they're the best value. We go to Jacksonville, what was formerly the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. We got Georgia laying a hefty number. You don't believe that they're you don't believe me that they're not a top 2 team. This point spread tells you they're laying 22.5 against a Florida team here. A Florida team that's been struggling first year under their new coach. I did not bet this one. This was another look ahead last week. That was 17. Thought it was light at Willie Hill. I wasn't betting these. Even as 3-4 weeks ago, people told me, hey, yeah, you can bet these look aheads. I didn't even know they're available. Some value there when the numbers are getting tighter, even on the openers, you're looking for any added edge. And that was the only involvement that I had. I thought the openers, as far as Circa went on Sunday morning, we're on cue. We haven't seen too much line movement here. It was another game where some early money came on the over. I disagreed. I don't think Florida and Anthony Richardson are going to have much success offensively. somebody bet it up to 56.5 through, relatively key totals numbers of 55 and 56. I took a swing a little bit on under 56.5, but that's all I had this week on this one. Did you bet it?
No, it's another one. And people are saying in the chat, and this is what it's just kind of been the antithesis of how it go. The first 5-6 weeks in the season, we couldn't lose. They're giving out winners. Spreads are going to get tighter. It's harder. As the season goes on, and as you've seen it, today this is the quietest the market's been on a Monday all season. And not a ton of big movers, not much happening here. I think a lot of the sharper stuff getting ready for the college basketball and that. So, and it's just, as you said, even the circus stuff is tight. So I didn't have anything on this one. A gun to my head, it would be a Florida the 23 there, but it's not. So I have doubts that their offense can put anything together against this Georgia defense. They haven't been able to run the ball all year. It'd be a lot of what kind of can Anthony Richardson come up with. So yeah, I agree with you. I probably lean towards fading some of that over move there, but it's another one that was just real tight. And as we're going to see, you got to be more selective here as the weeks go on, and not just rushing into any of the big games because they're out there. So this is another one that I'll probably, Friday's show will have some Tommy C fades for you. So I didn't have anything on this one. It's not one that either like I'm a half point away from buying or any though. It's kind of one that I'm probably not looking to trade at any point this week.
I totally agree there. Let's move on to another one. Maybe not another one that we didn't bet because it's Tennessee, it's Kentucky, really big game. A couple of top 20 teams here, ranked on ranked matchup. Haven't seen too much line movement here as far as the side. I thought maybe Tennessee might get some money. I didn't. We'll see. I mean, I think it'd probably be more of a public play on the Volunteers. People love betting Tennessee right now. I think they're popular, but it's nothing that I was racing the window to bet. There's another position. I thought the total was relatively high. I know we're talking Tennessee, but I mean, I don't think you can make totals too high with Kentucky involved because I think Will Levis is a little overrated. Well, what isn't overrated, I think Kentucky's defense is relatively legit. So I took a little bit of under, not one of my favorite plays of the week, but that was pretty much my only position here. Did you bet it? I'm guessing you didn't.
No, I'm in there.
You are?
Yeah, I bought up some of the 14 that was there. So
where was it? 14.
14 was the number I was looking for, and I got it, baby.
Where?
There was a little bit.
Canadian. You're having the Canadians still across the border.
I got producer Zach, at some grimy Canadian convenience store, throwing down some of that, funny money there and whatever they got. So yeah, was able to grab. That was the number for me. So I took some for it. I know now that's gone. Mostly 12 trading across the board there. It wouldn't be a buy for me past that. So I agree with you. I think Tennessee, as much as I love them and I need them to win this game, that was just too bad of a number for a Kentucky team that, again, we've talked about some coaches and some programs that like these are this is getting a couple of touchdowns, a game they're going to be able to slow it down. We think they'll be able to likely have some success running the ball on Tennessee here. I agree, it correlates to your underplay there. So it's one of those that I like Mark Stoops and the way this defense has been playing and the way they can kind of run the ball. Just unable to do enough to kind of slow it down and get now. If it's one of those where you see you get a start like last week's South Carolina M game where a couple of mistakes and they're down big early, then that's not the spot Kentucky wants to be in. So hey, I'm only 20 minutes away from the border, baby. You think I know Joey K won't drive to get some of those numbers? You're crazy. So yeah, that's one that. It was a buy for me at 14. I wouldn't play the 12 or 12 and a half. I still like the under on a small play at 63 and a half. I think Kentucky can stick around in this one. And it's spots that I like to play. I like to play their coach. I like to play their defense in these spots. And as you said, Tennessee probably a bit inflated with where they're at the moment. But I mean, no one's stopping them so far this year. Bama didn't stop them. They're putting up 80 against with an FCS team. So. Tennessee, hey, I mean, their offense is with the talent they have, and I think they'll be getting Tillman should be full go this week. So this Kentucky defense will be get all their hands full because no one's really been able to slow down Tennessee all year.
I mean, the way to slow them down is that run the football on offense.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think they're capable of doing it, Kentucky. Even though, early in the season they struggled without Rodriguez. We'll see. I think that would be very wise as far as the game plan goes. Real quick, because I did bet this already, look ahead, instead of past posts and talking about what I bet last week. I laid it with Georgia next week, 11.5. I made the line 14. What do you make the line next week, Tennessee, Georgia?
Well, the heart says one thing and the brain says another. I agree. I mean, it's one where the SEC East prices for me were at a position at the end.
I forgot.
I know. I would lean to agree with you. I think that's a little bit short. I haven't personally played it, but as you said, that's out there right now. If you want to lay it with Georgia, I would lean that way. But I think Tennessee, it's like they're peaking too early here, and I think that's the game where the team, like what you just said about Kentucky and what they'll need to do, Georgia can do it a lot better.
Yes.
It's like Georgia's basically Kentucky on steroids here with running the ball and playing defense. So I think that's the way to get after Tennessee, and Georgia will be better at it than what Kentucky can replicate there. So I would agree with you. I haven't laid it, but it's one that. I'll have a strong rooting interest in another Vols big upset.
Final big game of the week, the one we've all been waiting for. Some disagreement from me and Knish. It is the battle of his state, Michigan State. Paul Bunyan Trophy on the line here.
Give us Paul back, baby. Get the maize and blue ready for the paint because Paul's coming back home.
Yeah, coming back home, I can obviously see that. However, the question is, coming back home, are you going to bring home the cash and the money home with Michigan a 22-point favorite in this one? I'm not going to beat around the bush. I like anything above 3 touchdowns. Give me Michigan State. I didn't even look at my power ratings. I mean, from a power ratings aspect, does this make sense? Yeah, sure it does. But I'm here to tell you, I've watched this rivalry for 2 decades. Line doesn't make sense if we've been watching this rivalry. Coaches change, players change. And it's still the same thing. Michigan runs their mouth all week. They are talking about, they're going to, step on the throat of little brother. And it's totally the opposite. 19 meetings. Michigan's covered this number one time against Sparty. I mean, to me, it's a regret type of bet. Where if I'm sitting there, it's the third quarter, Michigan's messing around. They're only up 7. I'm going to be sitting there. Why in the hell did I not bet Sparty in this game? I mean, I watch this every year. Sparty plays their A-plus game every single season against Michigan. So I took the big dog here. You're going to tell me that this year's different. Michigan's going to run right down their throat. They're going to kill them. Is that where you're at on this one?
You know what? No. Unfortunately, right. I'm going to disagree with you. And the one aspect of it is that I can't lay off it because I'm with you on the bet though. I'm with you on the cash of. I took some 23. Circus still has a 23 right now. I was able to even get a juice 24 yesterday. I still think 21.5, 22. Here's why I'm not even going to go. I agree. I mean, betting on Mark D'Antonio in this game for 10 plus years was the freest money on earth. But if we want to lay off,
good.
Right. If we want to lay off, even just saying the history of the rivalry. Michigan State now, they got Jacob Slade back. They got Xavier Henderson back. They've got a few of their best players back. And now, even though they were, obviously they weren't 100% coming back last week, they've got the bye week. I think this is the healthiest we'll see Michigan State since probably week 1 or week 2 before they had the volume of injuries. And now, again, it's not one that I'm going to – Peyton Thorne's been getting beat up all year with a terrible O-line. He gets a week off. I think no team in America needed a bye week more than Michigan State. So I'm not telling you either, I think Michigan wins this game, but I think over 3 touchdowns is too high for a Michigan State team that has been downgraded so much that what they're getting back, I don't think it'll be properly reflected in the number. So, yeah, give me Michigan State here over 21. I like that. I like that quite a bit, to be honest with you. I mean, assuming that I'm making an assumption that a lot of the guys they got back will be healthier and just the team in general will probably overperform what they have in the last 4 or 5 weeks and be more to that team through back to the – I mean, this game in the summer was 7, 8. No place was higher than 10. And now, 23. So, and I think we're going to see more of the Michigan State team that that we saw earlier in the season. That, don't get me wrong, is by no means great, but is not a 3+ touchdown underdog here.
I think it doesn't need to be speculation. We started to see it against Wisconsin. I faded them, Michigan State. I thought they were done. They looked lifeless against the Buckeyes. I'll tell you what I saw. I saw the passing game starting to get their act together. Reed's healthy. Another player, Coleman, was stepping up. They got some weapons. I like the tight end. Berger's running. They look pretty capable offensively. And look, out of the 3 games that Wisconsin's had Jim Leonard, they dominated Northwestern. They won and covered over a good Purdue team. And Michigan State totally outplayed them. So, that was a legitimate win for the Sparty in their last time out. You're right. They get healthy, forgetting all the series history stuff. I was waiting for you to push back on me because I was kind of hesitant. I'm okay betting it myself, but I was hesitant making a best bet for this show.
No, lock it in. But I can't believe this is over 3 touchdowns.
Let's lock it in.
I thought this would be 17.5, 18. In fact, this got up to 23.5 some places, even touched 24. That is
too much.
That it's an insane price for me. So, and as we said, I don't think some of the Michigan State stuff is. If you're looking at full season data, you would think, okay, yeah, Michigan State's absolutely trash dumpster. But if you look at it, more granularly, like they should be much better than they've been for the majority of the season. So, yeah, I like that over 3 TDs. That's a double best bet.
Love it, Michigan State, double best bet. Love it. A couple others. Just real quick, don't want to go too long here. I know you got a couple meetings you got to get to.
Hey, listen, Joey Kazon's got to go, baby.
A couple of lines that stood out. TCU, a team I do want to fade. I just don't know if West Virginia's that opponent. I think the public's going to want to bet TCU. They're going to see a short number, 7.5. We've already seen money on TCU. I did bet TCU. Not that I love them. I just thought, this line's only going to go up in this game. So that's one that jumped out to me. I'm just going to go rapid fire, and then you can, mention anything that caught your eye. I was stunned. Notre Dame opened a favorite against Syracuse. I bet Syracuse there. Now it's about where I expected Syracuse 3. I honestly was expecting to bet Notre Dame. I was like, can I get more than 3 with Notre Dame? This is the type of game you don't want to lay points with Notre Dame. Even against UNLV, they somehow fuck it up. UNLV is like, here, have these block punts. Here, have this, here, that. And Notre Dame can't do it with the, high school quarterback. Northwestern Iowa, I bet over 31.5. That total was ridiculous. I know it's Northwestern Iowa. I'll probably lose, but 31.5 is the lowest total I've ever seen. And then we kind of already mentioned it. I thought, Ole Miss, people are going to probably think it's short. Early money on A&M. I'm part of that. So any other lines that caught your eye or any of those games I mentioned that you're involved in?
Well, I actually, I took, and maybe call me a sucker here. I took some of Pat's Cats at 11.5 there in that one. I agree, with the obviously, it's going to be an absurdly low total there. I thought Northwest, they made was Helinski not healthy, or did they just make a QB change for the sake of it? That was another one that kind of spurred me on surprise there, but
a little bit of both.
Yeah,
he's been banged up, but they wanted to, I guess, catch some fire. They did a little bit. They moved the football.
Yeah, they did. They moved the football all right, and at this point, there's no saving this Iowa offense. They're like, it's, and I agree that the defense has been playing fantastic every week. I even think, it's funny, they troll Spencer Petras. That Padilla's worse. Like, they bring him in and all he does is turn the foot. Like, that's why they've stuck with us. So I don't care who Iowa's playing at quarterback. I think it's a spot I love back in, Fitzgerald in some of these low total games where he's getting a bunch of points. So, that's one for me. I liked once it got the 11.5. I was in on Northwestern there. There's a couple of UAB. Dylan Hopkins got hurt. They're going to FAU. So there's a couple
I hate Willie Taggart, though. He sucks.
Yeah, I know. I got sucked into FAU futures after that Week 1 Charlotte game. There was some, and I thought that was real. And then they sucked ass the rest of the season. Another James Blackman was like a late script there in that game. So there's a couple other, we've mentioned, we went through this last week of just some under the radar QB stuff on some of these teams where in conferences where it's hard to get reporting. Florida State's one we talked about earlier. I don't think Sims is going to be able to give it a go. Gibson, the worst player I've ever seen play quarterback for anybody. So that's a brutal one. Where are you at? I want to get your. This is so this one opened up, and it's like, and maybe I just felt like I was betting like maybe I bet too much Illinois recently, where like I couldn't believe Illinois opened up under a TD versus Nebraska. So I got in there. I know there's still some flat 7 around, mostly 7.5. You have a number or take there on that one?
I'm part of it. Somebody beat me to it. I think it opened even 5. I laid 6. I mean, I couldn't believe it was under a touchdown. I mean, Illinois is legit. I mean, I faded the team a couple times, lost my ass against them. Yep. I mean, they got the #1 statistical defense in the country in pretty much every metric: yards per game, yards per play, points per game. I mean, Bielema's playing like they look like Wisconsin under him, to be honest with
Seriously.
you. I mean, they're just dominating. I mean, they beat teams worse in the final. Nebraska, I mean, with an interim coach, I don't know, off a bye. I mean, is he looking for work or is he prepping the team? I don't know. I am part of Illinois. Stunned that what didn't open 7.5. So if you can find some, 7 with some extra juice, I think that's worth it. You mentioned Arkansas State. It's just not the quarterback. They were down to a third stringer. They were down 6 or 7 other starters. So if you're wondering why your boys South Alabama taking money, it's just not the Knish syndicate, folks. It's not just pro South Alabama money. It's very anti-Arkansas State, who hasn't – they mentioned this. They're one of the 8 teams that haven't had a bye yet that are playing a 9th consecutive week. They are super banged up as any team in the country. So I think anything under 2 touchdowns is probably worth at least a little bit of a look, even though it's kind of expensive now in South Alabama. Louisiana Tech is down to a third-string quarterback, at least at the end of the game they were. Keep an eye on that situation. If McNeil or Downing can't play, that's why FIU's taking a lot of money, and FIU's kind of, been they've rebounded quite nicely on the last couple of weeks.
Seriously.
Toledo, DeQuan Finn, we kind of mentioned it.
That is because it was literally like the last play of the game. He didn't get up. He got smoked. And again, as we said earlier in the pod, like there's no update. There's no update. Nobody knows. Nope. So I thought it might have been a concussion. But obviously that's one we probably won't know until later in the week or 60 seconds before game time.
Yeah, so I mean, how do you handle that? So I would say this. I mean, anything above a touchdown, take a flyer on Eastern Michigan. I mean, and just watch the news. But I mean, I'm telling you, if he's out, it ain't gonna close 7. I'll put it that way.
Totally agree.
Before we get to other best bets, I just want to make sure we're getting everything out of the chat. I saw someone mention a bunch of big dogs. Not interested that much in Arizona, although there's backdoor potential there in that one from John. Nevada, I mean, they stink, but I mean, what's San Jose State's frame of mind after a player died? I won't get into the fact that I have a San Jose State over season win total bet of 5. That hurts. Colorado, no. Colorado State, not against Boise State. I don't see it. South Florida, starting quarterback's out, so they're down to a third-string guy. Keep that in mind. I hate Holgerson, but I don't want South Florida in that one. So my best one probably be Nevada, even though they stink there. But as Crestman mentions, you bet on trash, you expect trash.
Yeah, there's you got to know what you're getting at, especially some of the stuff. And as you said, the info is you really got it. It's hard to find, but you gotta some of these, especially later. I mean, this is the most like the volume QB injuries out there right now is nuts. As you said, you thought like once the COVID season's over that we won't have to but there's just so many QB injuries right now that you really got to have you really got to keep up, or you're going to get lost in the wind here.
I mean, I'm not breaking news. You don't have to be Elon Musk to figure this out. But, I mean, in today's day and age, man, the quarterback is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Saban goes out. What'd that line move? A point? A starting quarterback goes out. Even a MAC kid can move 3-4 points. Sure, a head coach over a course of a couple-year period is worth more. But individual games, these quarterbacks are everything now, especially you don't have a quality backup. I mean, hell, Alabama – almost lost that idiotic Jimbo Fisher A&M team without Bryce Young. I mean, that's why you got to stay on top of it. And with no injury report, it's everything. UTEP, Middle Tennessee under 53.5. Didn't bet it. That seems right. I mean, Middle Tennessee's they've been missing that wide receiver. Their offense hasn't been that explosive. You could always get win there in the Sun Bowl. Pitt, UNC. I kind of like Pitt. I think anything over 3. That was a misleading final there. I'm anxious to hear your thoughts there. They were just minus like 3 or 4 turnovers against Louisville. North Texas 10.5. Could see it there. I mean, just numbers wise, that makes sense against Western Kentucky. They've been playing well, almost beat UTSA outright. Eastern Michigan plus 11. That's a hell of a bet from Mickey Hill. I wish I had that bet. UConn catching 8.5. My numbers say BC, believe it or not. I mean, look. I really think Jim Moore Jr. is doing an outstanding job. I think we'd be talking about him more if he didn't have his entire skill position unit, banged up. I just think BC's banged up on the offensive line, but I thought it'd at least be 10. Did you bet that one yet?
Yeah, I actually filled some 8.5 later with B. I think BC's been playing a bit better too. They've been reasonably like the last few weeks kind of getting it together. So yeah, I actually laid not a ton, but laid a little bit of BC there. I'll tell you, I'll lock in
there we go.
Another ugly Big Ten best bet here. Give me the boys from Hoboken here with a little Jersey love. I'm taking Rutgers 14.5. That steamed up through once it crossed the 14, I was in. I think Rutgers defense is a real deal. They've been able to, they had a couple fluky plays early in that Indiana game. And then they shut them down throughout the rest of the game and were able to claw back and cover that one. I think Minnesota, it's too much respect. It's too much respect for a team that barely has any passing game. So I know some of the metrics and stuff kind of still like Minnesota, but I think this is too many points in a game that I like Rutgers defense. And hopefully, I know that, they changed OC. They're able to get a little bit going on offense against Indiana later as the game progressed. But this is too many for me against a Minnesota team that has been very, very, they got no explosive plays. They've really been able to tempt down on offense. Tanner Morgan banged up. So give me over 2 TDs with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, baby.
I laid 12, but I thought the line should be 14. So again, numbers, not teams, folks. 14.5, I could see it. So especially when you look at Minnesota, I get why they're struggling on offense. No Altman Bell. Ibrahim missed a game. Obviously, Tanner Morgan didn't play against Penn State. Disappointing thing to me is Minnesota's defense has been absolutely abolished the last 2 weeks. I mean, Illinois ran up and down their throat, and then we saw, Penn State have their way. So I can see it. I laid 12 because I thought it should have been 14.5. Yeah, you could talk me into taking Rutgers there. So no disagreement in that one. I'll get the best bet. We'll see if there's any disagreement here. I like Texas Tech. I think they're the most underrated team in the country. I like Baylor a lot. I like Baylor's head coach. I want to play on Baylor, but right now I think there's more value on the Texas Tech side. They have played 3 different quarterbacks this year. They have played a top 10 schedules in terms of schedule strength, and they have outgained every single opponent this year. They absolutely destroyed West Virginia. Now, turnovers played a role, but still, when you looked at the yardage metrics, yards per play metrics, they dominated West Virginia. So it's a team. I hope they don't play Tyler Shuck. I hope they stick with Morton, the young quarterback, who's the future. Donovan Smith, he turns the football over too much. So I just think the line should be 3. That's a key number. We're under 3. I like Texas Tech 2.5. They opened the dog. We've seen early money. I'm part of it on Texas Tech. You have an opinion here?
You know what? I was going to say I dicked around a little bit and didn't jump on that early enough as kind of waiting to see it. Now it's gotten out to, where I said where see it's more fair, around 2.5, 3 there. I was surprised. I mean, their defense, and I know there was some wind going on, some conditions there, but it didn't affect Texas Tech against West Virginia because they shut down JT Daniels. West Virginia wasn't able to run the ball either. And now they're, you go back and their body of work looks relatively, more impressive than you wouldn't see there. I mean, obviously they beat Texas outright. Tight game versus Kansas State. Tight game they should have won versus Oklahoma State. Blow the doors off West Virginia. I agree with you. Team's underrated. The new quarterback they installed is real deal. And it would be I regretting not getting the jump early enough, but it would still be -2.5 or nothing for me.
In the weeds a little bit here, Joey McGuire, the new head coach at Texas Tech, was basically the right-hand man at Baylor for the first couple of years under the head coach there. So he knows those players. He recruited them at Baylor. So he's going to know some strengths and weaknesses on that side more than what people are probably alerted to here. So that's one for me. Michigan State, Texas Tech, I'm trying to think if there's any. You got another one before I look to see the board here, see if I got another best bet?
I took one more. I gotta play this one. I took Old Dominion at the +4 there at Georgia State. It's a Georgia State team that I was higher on coming into the year than I ended that I'm at right now. It's a team that has kind of underperformed relative to me recently. And I think Old Dominion is another one. It's kind of two teams that thought we're tracking a little bit in different directions here. And I don't know. It's an Old Dominion team that I'm believed now. Again, I know they blew the game against Georgia Southern, but I mean they absolutely pasted Coastal. And I think that they're playing some better football there. So I'm going to take the points there in that one. Versus a Georgia State team that really Darren Granger. Like if he cannot, if they basically have to run the football. I think Old Dominion's defense has been better than I thought it would be. And Georgia State, it's not a team that I like laying points with there. It's an easier team to defend. I mean, Georgia, this is Granger against App State, whose defense is highly questionable. 9 for 23, 73 yards and a pick. Just brutal when they're forced to throw the ball. And I think Old Dominion can kind of force them into that. Old Dominion's offense been rolling a little bit better than I thought too. So give me the +4 there.
I've been giving this out on other platforms. It's moved a little, but I still like it because I'll tell you what, if the kid plays, the line's going to go up even 3 or 4 points. I'm going to lay it with Florida State. I'm not a big favorite guy, but even if Jeff Sims plays, he's probably hobbled.
Right.
And I don't know how much the team, after losing the first game against the interim last week, how much are they going to be bought in Georgia Tech moving forward? I think, generally speaking, Florida State's underrated. They've lost 3 straight. They're off a bye. They've been banged up. They'll be healthier than what they've been the last 3-4 weeks. I just think this game has blowout written all over it, especially if Zach Gibson plays for Georgia Tech. I mean, the guy couldn't even complete a pass. Literally could not complete passes last week. I mean, I just think – if Sims plays, yeah, sure, maybe it's a little expensive. But then again, I'm not sure. I could see – they were losing by margin – Ole Miss beat them 42-0. Sims was in there. Clemson got margin over them. And again, I just think it's a buy low spot for Florida State. They need to get right, need a blowout win. And I think they definitely get it if Gibson plays. So I'll lay the 23 here with the Noles. I think we're heading towards 24. And if Gibson gets announced in, we're blowing past 24. This number really climbs up there because I don't know how big of a down – he's – at least 6 points. Right. From what I saw on Thursday night, from Sims to Gibson is 6 points, and we're still not there yet.
No, I agree with you. I laid some early 20. I don't mind laying the 22.5 still. Part of the cap there was, Sims missed a couple, their big plays there. I think Georgia Tech, if they hit those plays early and Sims is in, I'm feeling good about where it's at. Instead, Gibson comes in. And there was plays all over the field to be made against that Virginia defense, and he was just awful. So, yeah, and I think Florida State getting a little bit of a break here. They should be, especially if it's Gibson, they should be able to roll.
Steven asked about Louisiana Tech moving against FIU. GS in the chat answered it. Yep, Louisiana Tech possibly down to a third-string quarterback in that one. It's not all FIU money, although they turned it around a little bit. They basically fired Charlotte's head coach by getting an outright upset win. And they showed some life against UTSA. They pulled an outright upset on the road against New Mexico State. So I think generally speaking, FIU market threw them in the trash when they lost 73-0 to Western Kentucky. And they've been playing better as of late. So that's why that movement's there. I will say, though, keep an eye on it. If McNeil or Downing are playing, 6.5 would be cheap on the Louisiana Tech side. So it's folks, it's injury information at quarterback, and it's all about getting the right number. I'm not, I'll wait and see. I'll be firing Louisiana Tech, to be honest with you, if they get one of those two guys. Because keep in mind, they competed. There's not much of a downgrade from those two guys. So that would be cheap if one of those two guys gets announced in. Did you bet FIU already?
No, I didn't take part in that. I was a little worried that, as you said, La Tech could get one of the QBs back. And I totally agree with you. It's way cheap if they're able to. If not, I'm fine passing on it because not like I'm dying to bet FIU in the roadies. So yeah, I agree.
Crestman, one or two more here for the road. Coastal Marshall hoping for a 3. I get it. I made it 3, although Marshall, I think, is a Jekyll and Hyde team that you can't trust. I think, generally speaking, though, Coastal's overrated. We saw that come to fruition in a blowout loss against Old Dominion. But off of bye, do they reset a little bit? They've also been a team that was banged up at the skill position. And again, I don't know what you're getting with Marshall. Are we getting the Marshall team that beat James Madison and Notre Dame? Or are we getting the Marshall team that lost to Bowling Green, lost to Louisiana? I mean, I don't know what I'm getting there. So they're almost unbettable, to be honest with you, because I don't know what I'm getting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't really have a position in that one. I don't really plan to either.
You got any closing thoughts here?
No, I think I think we're mostly on red. As you said, spread's tighter. We're kind of taking the volume down a notch. So if you're out there, staking stuff, obviously this is the hands down my lowest volume of the week so far. So yeah, this will probably be. Hopefully we can close it out strong with a couple good ones, but yeah, it's going to be probably a little lighter from here going forward.
Are we betting the Dolphins?
I mean, I don't know. The Lions, they should have covered that. Jamal Williams, hold on to the ball. He scores that touchdown. They're going to cover. Dak was terrible. But no, you know what? That was the spot that I wanted to back them in. This one, to be honest with you, it'd be fins or nothing for me. Because and now we're back to dealing with St. Brown's out again. I don't know. The injuries have just piled up into nothing. So golf's off the reservation again. So yeah, the year, hopefully, at this point, just keep losing and bring in Bryce Young or CJ Stroud.
Love it. Folks, that is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish. I'm sorry, Alex and Rob, I had to sneak in a Lions question because I think there might be some opportunity there to make some money this week. That'll do it for week number 9. There he is, and Mr. Leach. He's not playing Alabama this week, so fortunately he gets a bye. That'll do it for week number 9 of Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Talk to you, brother.